you what you're doing, Mr. Dillon?
Making tea. You want some?
Tea? Hot tea?
That's right.
When Gunsmoke stormed onto television in 1955, no one expected a dusty western to become the king of primetime. But for 20 seasons, it didn't just survive, it redefined what a TV drama could be. Behind the stoic lawmen, dusty streets and tumbleweed showdowns were stories of casting gambles, silent radio betrayals, shocking network rescues, on-set drama, and secrets that could still rattle hardcore fans today. This is 20 weird facts you didn't know about Gunsmoke, and we're kicking off with the ones that still hit like a 6-gun blast. Fact 20. The show didn't end because of ratings. When Gunsmoke ended in 1975 after a legendary 20-year run, most people assumed the ratings had finally caught up with it. But the truth is a lot wilder. The show was still pulling strong numbers, beating plenty of newer series. What actually ended the ride was James Arness himself. After 2 decades of playing Marshal Matt Dillon, Arness decided he'd had enough. The long shooting schedule, the weight of carrying the show, and his desire to finally move on pushed him to turn down any continuation. The network knew replacing him would be suicide for the series, so they simply pulled the plug. A top-rated show ending not because it failed, but because its lead walked away? That's the kind of quiet shock Hollywood rarely talks about. Fact 19. A real stagecoach stunt went terribly wrong. For all its grit and old-school charm, Gunsmoke didn't rely on CGI or special effects. Every full brawl and horse chase was the real deal, and that sometimes came at a painful cost. During the filming of a stagecoach scene, a stunt sequence went off script. The horses panicked, the coach jolted, and several extras were thrown to the ground. A few suffered broken bones and serious bruising. Production halted temporarily, but the footage stayed out of the final cut. It was a brutal reminder that on a set like Gunsmoke, danger wasn't just in the script, it was part of the job. Fact 18. Multiple endings were filmed to stop leaks. Back in the 1960s and 70s, spoiler leaks weren't coming from the internet, they were coming from newspapers. Reporters and crew members sometimes leaked big plot twists to the press, spoiling climactic shootouts or shocking deaths for fans. To fight back, Gunsmoke producers began filming multiple alternate endings for major episodes. Sometimes even the cast didn't know which version would air. It kept fans guessing and gave the show a mysterious, unpredictable edge long before modern spoiler culture existed. What fans saw on TV was often a surprise, even to the actors who filmed it. Fact 17. Censors silenced the show's most intense storylines. For a Western, Gunsmoke tackled some surprisingly heavy themes: justice, revenge, corruption, and moral grey areas. But what viewers saw on TV was often a toned-down version of what the writers originally intended. Network censors routinely softened or scrapped entire plotlines, worried they were too intense for primetime audiences. Some episodes lost key dialogue, others had endings rewritten to be less dark, and a few story concepts never made it past the script stage. Behind the badge and cowboy hats was a series far grittier than audiences ever realized. Fact 16. Dennis Weaver nearly lost his role over money. Dennis Weaver, who played the beloved Chester Goode, almost didn't make it through the run of the series. At the height of the show's success, Weaver pushed for a salary increase, arguing that his role was essential to Gunsmoke's growing popularity. The network hesitated, negotiations dragged on, and at one point, producers even began quietly discussing possible replacements. Eventually, they reached a deal, but the tension nearly ended. Chester's time on the show far earlier than fans ever knew. Had things gone differently, one of the series' most iconic characters might have vanished in the middle of its golden years. Fact 15. Some episodes were shot in black and white to save money. Even after color TV became the norm, Gunsmoke sometimes reverted to filming episodes in black and white, not for style, but to slash costs. Producing full-color episodes was far more expensive, and when budgets got tight, the show quietly shifted certain stories back to the old format. Sharp-eyed fans noticed the inconsistency, but the network decided saving dollars mattered more than visual polish. It was a rare cost-cutting move for a top-rated show, and it proved just how much Gunsmoke had to fight to stay on the air. This wasn't a cheap Western, It was a production constantly balancing power, popularity, and pressure. Fact 14. James Arness almost didn't get the role. It's hard to imagine anyone but James Arness as Marshal Matt Dillon, but the network wasn't convinced at first. Executives worried he looked too much like Gabby Hayes, a popular old-school Western sidekick, and feared audiences wouldn't take him seriously as a leading man. But when Arness did his screen test, everything changed. His height, quiet authority, and unshakable presence made him perfect for the part. Once he stepped into Dillon's boots, there was no going back. The role he almost didn't get became the one that defined his entire career. Fact 13. Dodge City wasn't real, it was a recycled backlot. The iconic streets of Dodge City, with its saloons, hitching posts, and dusty storefronts, became one of the most recognizable sets in TV history. But the truth is, Dodge City was never really Dodge City. Most of what fans saw was a single backlot set reused over and over again. The production dressed it differently for each episode, swapping out signs, repainting facades, and moving props to make it look bigger than it was. What seemed like an expansive western town was actually movie-making sleight of hand. Fact 12. The radio rights nearly derailed the TV show. Gunsmoke didn't start on TV. It began as a gritty radio drama in 1952, but when CBS decided to bring it to television, they ran into a serious legal headache. The original radio contracts gave certain rights to the actors and writers, meaning the network couldn't just copy everything over. For a while, lawyers and producers were locked in tense negotiations just to get the TV series rolling. Characters had to be relicensed, some scripts had to be reworked, and parts of the original cast were left behind entirely. It was a messy birth for a show that would later become a television empire. Fact 11. Scripts were sometimes written at the last minute. For all its polish on screen, Gunsmoke often ran on chaos behind the curtain. Writers were under brutal time pressure to keep up with the show's demanding schedule. Some episodes were being written the night before filming, and occasionally, pages were handed to actors just moments before cameras rolled. Cast members had to learn lines fast, improvise when scripts weren't finished, and trust each other to keep scenes flowing. What looked effortless on TV was often a last-minute scramble to keep one of the biggest shows on air. It was live-fire TV production, cowboy style. Fact 10. An episode was pulled after viewer complaints. In the 1960s, one episode of Gunsmoke sparked such intense backlash from viewers in Kansas that CBS quietly pulled it from rotation. The storyline was considered too violent and unsettling for primetime television at the time. Back then, westerns were supposed to be rough around the edges, but Gunsmoke pushed the boundaries more than most. Local stations refused to air the episode again, and the network shelved it for years. It was one of the earliest examples of a TV western being too much for its own audience. Fact 9. Matt Dillon's holster was worn backwards. Sharp-eyed fans of the early seasons may have noticed something strange. Marshal Matt Dillon's gun holster was on the wrong side. In several early episodes, James Arness wore his gun belt reversed, something that quickly caught the attention of dedicated Western viewers. It wasn't a style choice. The wardrobe team later admitted it was simply fitted incorrectly during early filming and no one caught it right away. Fans flooded the network with letters pointing it out, forcing the show to fix the mistake. A simple costume error became one of the most infamous little details in the show's history. Fact 8. The show went global in a big way. For a series that screamed American West, Gunsmoke had a reach far beyond US borders. The show was broadcast in 26 countries and dubbed into dozens of languages, making Dodge City a familiar place to audiences around the world. It was rare for a Western to break through internationally at the time, but the combination of strong storytelling and charismatic characters made it universal. Fans from places as far away as Japan and Germany became devoted to Matt Dillon's world. It wasn't just a TV show anymore, it was a global cultural export. Fact 7. Future superstars got their start on Gunsmoke. Before they were household names, some of Hollywood's biggest stars walked through Dodge City. Guest stars included Clint Eastwood, Jodie Foster, and even a young Harrison Ford, long before Star Wars or Indiana Jones made him a legend. For many of them, appearing on Gunsmoke was one of their earliest TV gigs, a stepping stone that gave them exposure and helped launch their careers. Some roles were tiny, just a line or two, but history has a way of making even small moments iconic. It's wild to think that future legends once rode into Dodge as just another face in the crowd. Fact 6. Cast changes sent fans into a frenzy. Every time Gunsmoke swapped a major cast member, the audience let the network know exactly how they felt. And it wasn't subtle. Thousands of letters would pour in. Some angry, some heartbroken, and some begging CBS to bring their favorite character back. In an era before social media, fan mail carried real power. Producers often adjusted storylines or softened exits to calm the backlash. In some cases, they even delayed changes just to give the audience more time to accept it. Gunsmoke didn't just have viewers, it had a fiercely loyal fan base that fought to keep Dodge City the way they loved it. Fact 5. Unused radio scripts were recycled years later. Gunsmoke had a treasure trove of unused material from its earlier radio days. Rather than let those stories collect dust, the TV writers quietly revived and reworked several old radio scripts into full episodes, sometimes years after they were first written. Most viewers had no idea they were watching storylines that predated the television series. These recycled plots were often polished up, modernized for TV pacing, and blended seamlessly into the show's later seasons. It was one of the clever tricks that helped the series stretch its creative life across 2 decades. Fact 4. The radio series was far darker than the TV show. When Gunsmoke lived on the radio, it had a tone that would have shocked many TV viewers. The stories were grittier, moodier, and more violent, aimed squarely at adults rather than family audiences. Marshal Dillon was colder, the outback was harsher, and the endings weren't always neat or heroic. But when the show made the jump to television, CBS softened the edges. The violence was toned down, moral messages became clearer, and Dillon's character was given a more heroic, steady hand. Fans who discovered the radio version later were stunned to learn just how dark Gunsmoke originally was. Fact 3. Its radio roots nearly made the TV series too serious. Because Gunsmoke was born on radio as an adult drama, the early TV episodes carried that same hard-edged tone. Executives quickly grew nervous. They worried viewers tuning in for an evening western wanted adventure, not brooding morality plays. Writers were pushed to lighten the mood, weave in more humor, and soften the grim edges. This subtle tonal shift helped transform the series from a niche drama into a cultural phenomenon. The show didn't just adapt to television, it reshaped itself to dominate it. Fact 2. Reruns turned Gunsmoke into a legend. When Gunsmoke ended in 1975, it could have quietly faded into TV history, but reruns and syndication did something incredible. They gave the show a second life. Through cable networks and local stations, new generations discovered Dodge City, creating a fan base that stretched far beyond its original run. For many viewers, Gunsmoke was as familiar in the 1980s as it was during its prime. Few shows in television history have enjoyed that kind of longevity. It was proof that legends don't die, they just find new time slots. Fact 1. One of the longest-running TV shows in history. Gunsmoke didn't just make history, it carved out a place no other Western has touched. Running for 20 seasons and 635 episodes, it became one of the longest-running scripted primetime shows in American television history. Its influence is everywhere, from how modern dramas structure their episodes to how lawmen and outlaws are portrayed on screen. The show didn't just entertain a generation, it set the standard for everything that came after. Decades later, Gunsmoke still casts a long shadow over TV's golden age. For 2 incredible decades, Gunsmoke wasn't just a TV show. It was a cornerstone of American pop culture. Behind those dusty Dodge City streets were wild negotiations, dangerous stunts, casting battles, and moments that could have changed everything. From shocking behind-the-scenes power moves to its legacy as one of the longest-running series in TV history, Gunsmoke proved that a Western could outlive trends, generations, and even the network that gave it life. If you loved these 20 weird facts you didn't know about Gunsmoke, and you think we deserve a pat on the back, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Golden Hollywood Archives, where legends never fade, they just ride on.